One dark and stormy night, a ship carrying slaves from present-day Nigeria approached the shores of an island. As it drew closer, it became clear that something was not right. The ship was empty and its deck was abandoned and silent. The captives had revolted against their captors and took control of the ship. As it ran aground on the sandy beach, a group of Igbo people emerged from the darkness and jumped overboard. When they were all on the ground, they stared at the masters who were waiting to receive them from their enslavers. Then they turned around, held hands and marched into the ocean, singing in the Igbo language. The water spirit brought us, and the water spirit will take us home. What happened next would become known as the Igbo landing, an event that would haunt the shores of that island for centuries to come. In 1803, a group of slave traders left the shores of Europe to buy slaves from present-day Nigeria. They packed gunpowder, brandy, iron, cloth, mirror, and other items they would use as payment. Once they got to Nigeria, they told the sellers that they were interested in buying only Igbo people because they were independent and hardworking. The sellers commanded all the men, women, and children who were of Igbo origin to step forward and line up in a single file. Then the European buyers began a physical inspection to select the strongest, healthiest people and also to determine their value. This process was known as seasoning. During the seasoning, the buyers stripped the captives naked, looking for physical defects that might affect their ability to walk. They forced their mouths open and examined their teeth because good teeth were indicative of overall health. The buyers also examined their muscles to ensure that they would be able to work hard for long periods of time. But what they did not know was that they were biting more than they could chew. After the selection process, the buyers made the payment and marched over 100 of the enslaved Igbos into the ship in a single file. Inside the ship, they forced them to lie side by side. They were so tightly packed that they had no room to move or stretch their limbs. Most of the captives were scared to the bone because they had never seen the sea. To make matters worse, the holding room had no windows. It was dark, hot, and suffocating. They were fed beans or corn once a day with very little water, if at all. Sometimes they were made to go without food for days. After about 2 weeks, some of the slaves started to fall sick. They suffered from diseases such as dropsy, fever, dysentery, and diarrhea. They vomited and stood in the stuffy room, making the living conditions even worse. More people got sick, and those who died were thrown overboard. The combination of diseases, inadequate food, and punishment took a heavy toll on the captives, and by the 4th week, many of them had kicked the bucket. The experience was so traumatic that the captives often woke up in the middle of the night, crying and screaming out of fear. Over time, they started singing to feel better and build up hope, and it strengthened them. One night, the quartermaster went to the captain and suggested that they bring the captives to the upper deck of the ship for a dance in order to keep them exercised. The captain agreed, but that was the biggest mistake ever, for the slaves had planned to utilize the slightest opportunity they had to fight, even if it meant that they wouldn't make it. That evening, the quartermaster brought all the men to the upper deck and forced them to dance to the music. As the men danced, they watched very closely for an opportunity to attack, and it came. One of the slaves snatched the key to the locks on their chains and set them all free. The European traders tried to fight back, but they were overpowered and thrown overboard, causing the ship to come to a halt in Dunbar Creek. The Igbo captives, who were now free, climbed down the ship and walked on the sandy beach towards the clearing just a few meters away from the water. But as they got closer, they spotted some white men at a distance mobilizing to attack them. At that point, an Igbo chief leaned over and whispered something into the ears of one of the captives beside him. This captive whispered it to the next person, and the information went down the line to the very last individual. Everyone looked back at the chief and nodded in agreement, men, women, and children, and slowly about 75 of them turned around, held hands, and marched into the water, chanting words in the Igbo language that translates to, "The water spirit brought us, the water spirit will take us home. The water spirit brought us, the water spirit will take us home. The water spirit brought us, the water spirit will take us home." The Igbo slaves decided that it was better to walk back to Africa on the water than to remain enslaved in the New World. They believed that in death, their souls will return home. Many of them drowned. The white men who witnessed what happened from the shores recovered 13 bodies, but others were never found. Today, the legacy of the Igbo landing lives on and is remembered and honored by the descendants of those brave men and women who fought for their freedom. It stands as a testament to the strength and resilience of the Igbo people and the unspeakable horrors that they endured during their time in bondage. It is a reminder of the terrible atrocities of the past and a call to action for the present and future generations to stand up against injustice and oppression wherever it may be found. If you enjoyed this story, kindly give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel as I post 1 or 2 mysterious stories every week. Thank you.